Well, hello my little beauties, it's David Connolly, the web developer extraordinaire, and today I'm going to show you a fantastic, advanced, do you hear me, an advanced trick for Trongate developers. Now this little trick is all about how to pass functions into modules. I know what you're thinking, why on earth would you want to do that, and what does it even mean? Well, I'm going to level, you probably won't use this every day, but when you do need this, it's an absolute lifesaver. And I think that you're going to like this. So let me give you generally what this does. Imagine you've got a function or a method, whatever. Remember, folks, a method is a function that's inside a class, okay? So imagine you've got a little thing that says hello. And imagine that this thing is going to just echo hello world, okay? Now with Trongate, we're used to doing things like this, name equals John or whatever, and then passing that into a module. We've done that type of thing before, so we load up a module, and then we just call the module, and we might say something like, say my name, and pass in the data. This is all kind of normal, right? Well, what we're doing today is a little bit special because today we're kind of doing something like this. We're saying hello equals this function. And in fact, basically we're saying data hello equals that. And we're passing an entire function into another module. And that is something that you haven't seen here before. Now this is pseudo syntax. It's not exactly like this. So hang tough, I'll show you the exact syntax. You're going to love it. Okay, so I think what I'd like to do is show you my little setup because I think it's good to show you clearly an example of the type of problem that this solves. So I set this up before coming on, and if you give me 2 minutes, I'm just going to give you this example so that you can really see the type of situation where this might be useful. So we have a demo Trongate app on localhost, right? And you saw on the screen I had it there. Just imagine a fabulous invoice here. So imagine that we have this app that has an invoices module. Now I'll get rid of this. You can see inside modules, we've got a module called invoices. And just imagine that the purpose of this module is to display a fabulous invoice, maybe something like this, okay? Now I haven't got time to actually do that, so this is just a picture that I picked up from Google, okay? But just imagine when you see this, imagine it's drawing a fabulous invoice, right? This is our situation. Now, let's imagine that you are an incredibly successful entrepreneur. You probably are. And let's imagine that on your invoices, because you're a very responsible person, you're going to have a little bit that calculates the tax. I mean, that's normal, you know, on invoices, right? Now, in the past, you may have heard me say, build a tax module. So here's a little tax module here. And it doesn't do anything particularly special. If I go to /tax, you see it says, hello, I'm a tax module. And you might typically have something that says calculate tax, a little method for calculating tax. And that's what we've spoken about in the past, right? The thing is, let's imagine that you are so successful that you have some companies that you deal with who are in Scotland. And let's imagine they get handled in this module A. So here's module A. It gets used for dealing with companies in Scotland. But you also deal with companies who are in Egypt. Let's call this module B, okay? So both of those types of companies, the ones in Egypt and the ones in Scotland, they all need invoices. They all need to be sent invoices. The thing is, the process for, let's say, calculating tax, I don't know anything about calculating tax, by the way, but let's just speculate that the process for calculating tax is completely different in Scotland as it is from in Egypt. Well, that gives us a problem, because with our tax module here, our kind of imaginary tax module, you might have a little thing that says calc tax, right? It's for calculating the tax. And maybe it returns some tax amount. But what you're going to do, if the way that tax gets calculated for module A, let's say, is completely different from module B, what are you going to do? These horrible if statements here? Some kind of miserable switch? It's very easy to imagine how this could all get very messy very, very soon, you know? And imagine if you dealt with 100 different countries. This could be a nightmare. So we need a better way. And wouldn't it be good if we could actually pass in a function called calculate tax and pass that perhaps into invoices? So that's my little setup. I hope it makes sense, and don't worry if it doesn't. So what we're going to do is, you can watch if you want, or you can join in. It's up to you. It doesn't matter, right? But I'm going to make a little function inside module A. I'm going to just call it calc tax. I'm not going to worry about private and protected and public and all of that. I'll make it really, really simple, right? Let's just make this as simple as you get, okay? So the tax amount is going to be 88, and then it returns the tax amount. Now that's an ordinary little function, or let's say a method, inside a module, and it's no big deal. So if we go to this draw invoice thing, and we say tax amount equals, and we call upon calc tax, we can of course echo the tax amount or chuck in a little dice statement. And what will happen here is you can see that it's chucking the tax amount onto the page, okay? So we're calculating the tax, right? And we can do the same for Egypt. Maybe Egypt has got an entirely different way of calculating tax. Again, I don't know how things work in Egypt, but maybe they've got some other formula for calculating tax, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take this little function here, or method if you want to call it that, and we're going to pass it into our invoices module. It's an incredible and amazing thing. So here's how you do this. The first thing we're going to do is inside our class right at the top, we're going to say private, and we're going to create a variable called calc tax. Okay? Now all this does is it says, hey PHP, if somebody references a variable called calc tax anywhere in here, then that's cool. We have access to this thing. So we're just declaring that we've got a thing called calc tax. Now the next thing that we're going to do, in fact, let me take this out if that's okay. I'll just take this out. So we're back to just imagining a nice invoice, right? So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a constructor. A constructor is a special type of method, method that gets invoked as soon as you call something from the class that it's inside. So I'm going to say function _ construct. Now this is pure PHP, and if we just say echo howdy and then a new line, you'll see that it says howdy, and then we imagine a fabulous invoice, right? So a constructor gets called before anything else. It's the thing that fires automatically as soon as we call something from the class. Now with Trongate, I recommend adding parent _ _construct like that. I recommend doing that. Now why? Well, the answer is because when you add this, it gives you access to all of the stuff inside Trongate. So only by adding this, you'll have access to things like the model and other things that are loaded up with Trongate, okay? So this is a constructor. Let's even take this out. If we save and refresh, okay, we're all square, no big deal. So the question is, how do we pass this into invoices? So watch closely. I'm going to copy this and then take it out of here. And then I'm going to paste inside. I'm pasting that little method inside the constructor. Can you see that? It's inside the constructor. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this calc tax thing. We're going to say this calc tax. So we're now referencing this thing here, right? And we're going to say that that equals a function. Now this is an amazing thing here, because what we're now doing is effectively creating a sort of variable and assigning a function to the variable. And because we are now treating the function like a variable, we're going to add in a little semicolon here. And if we save it, nothing much happens and everything is kind of normal. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to say, when we draw our invoice here, we're going to say data, let's call it calc tax, and it's going to equal this calling upon calc tax. A few of you are smiling. Do you get it yet? Do you get it? Do you get it? All right. So now we're going to go to invoices display. I'll pass in some data this time, right? And over on invoices, our display thing is now accepting some data. Now if I save and refresh, there's still nothing happening here. But check this out. Now I'm going to say calc tax equals data calc tax. And that means that this variable called calc tax is actually, believe it or not, it contains the function or the method called calc tax. And we can use this like a function. Let me give you a demonstration. So we could say something like tax amount equals, and I'm just going to say calc tax. Now think about the actual method here. This one doesn't accept anything. So I'm just going to go like this. So imagine a fabulous invoice here. I'm calling calc tax, and I'm just going to say here, your tax is, and we'll chuck in the tax amount. Now, if this works, this is definitely worth a thumbs up, you have to admit. And can you believe it? It completely works. So here's an example that I've added onto Module B. This is for dealing with companies in Egypt. And you can see here, it's basically just the same type of idea. I've declared this calc tax thing here. And here's our little method. This one's slightly different. You'll see that I've added additional costs and things. So it's different in terms of how it works. And once again, I'm passing that in. And now if I go to the page for Module B, you'll see that we get a different tax value. So that one's saying 210, Module A is saying 188. So this is us passing functions from one module to another.